Welcome to the Grantland Network and the Jalen Rose Report. Jalen.
Got to give the people.
What do we give them?
Give the people what they want.
If the people want a special guest today, they got one.
Yes,
Ladies and gentlemen,
indeed.
joining us on the Jalen Rose Report,
Hercules.
Bill Simmons.
This is part 2, you should mention.
This is part 2 of a 2-part podcast. The
Our
first part
tripod.
on the BS Report, the tripod.
A menage pod.
Yeah,
I like tripod.
we just cranked out 45 minutes for the BS Report, and now we're here, part 2.
I'm very excited about
Podcasm.
this. I'm very excited about this. See, you guys went to Memphis and saw the Spurs sweep.
By the way, I'm like Tiago Splitter in this pod. I'm just going to set some picks. That's it. I might roll to the rim a couple times.
Hey, he was the difference in overtime.
You're Tony Parker. I'm just setting some picks for you.
I'm Joey Crawford. I shouldn't be here, but I'm going to talk more than I should, okay?
That's hilarious.
You guys saw the Spurs sweep. We actually have a series in the Eastern Conference Finals. Last night, the Heat lost to the Pacers. And the biggest takeaway that I saw wasn't the referees. It was really the Pacers beating them up down low. How did they do that?
There was a lot of talk about the referees. 55 total fouls. That means one of the refs, Joey Crawford, was actually trending on Twitter. Just never good for the game.
Never good. Good for Joey.
You pay attention to who Rodney Mott is and now Derek Stafford, who they are. Bad calls both ways. But you still have to be resilient as a basketball team. But the real issue for the Miami Heat, when they don't play well, you can look at 3 players. Chris Bosh, Chris Anderson, and Udonis Haslem.
Yep.
Those 3 players totaled 13 points and 7 rebounds.
Well, didn't Bosh get hurt?
Bosh got hurt
Got
in
hurt
the
in the
third
third quarter, right?
But Birdman didn't have a shot.
Roy Hibbert, along with Wes David, had 37 points and 24 rebounds, just those 2 players. And what ends up happening to the geometry of the floor is when you're 4 and 5, Haslem and Bosh, at this point in their careers, and Bosh could mix his game up more than Haslem. He's a max caliber player. When they're standing all around the perimeter, that gets in the way of the spacing for Ray to get shots and for Battier to get shots. And then you don't have Wade breaking down the defense, penetrating as well as he was. And now LeBron, who in the second game in the third game, did a very good job of finding his spot and posting. And you notice he turned over his right shoulder and made the left-hand layup a couple of times. Where in this game, he posted too low, below the box. So now that became a turnaround jump shot. And Lance Stephenson in particular did a good job of pushing him off the post. Pacers play well at home.
You mentioned Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh annoys me because he's making like $19 million a year.
You never get what you deserve. Only what you have the leverage to negotiate.
No, I know. But he's an all-star. He's a franchise guy, allegedly. And it's like they always have to try to convince him to play hard. It's like game 3, we're going to get Chris involved. Chris comes out, he scores 8 points, they play really well. It's like, yeah, Chris showed up tonight. Then in game 4, he doesn't show up. It's like, what? Why doesn't he show up for every game? How about that idea? It's not like if I do a podcast, I'm like, I'm not showing up for this pod.
I'm mailing it in.
And then it's like, oh, I had a bad week of podcast.
Yeah,
I'm showing up
Bill,
for this pod.
We need you today,
I took
Bill.
notes for this pod.
We really need you to talk to Joe
I
House
have
today.
ideas for this podcast. This podcast is very important.
I got a better one
It's like,
for you.
come on, Chris Bosh.
Or when it's no basketball, no football, no hockey, and it's maybe July or August, you don't mail in the podcast. You still find quality content.
Try to
deliver to people.
Just Chris Bosh should be good every game. He's got good matchups in this series. Roy Hibbert can't guard him facing up. If he faces him up, he can either go left or he can shoot that 18-footer whenever he wants. Now, part of it, they don't give him the ball enough, but Chris Bosh should be like, give me the ball. I can beat this guy. I'll get him in foul trouble.
And this is where we disagree. Roy Hibbert can guard Chris Bosh.
Not face-to-face, though.
I think so.
He can guard him. And here's why. Because he's not mixing up his game. The stuff you're talking about, face up and drive around him, that means you got to actually go into that color area of the floor.
I know. Well, that's my point.
And
so we're both right. Yeah, he is not willing to do it.
Sometimes if they were 4-point shots, sometimes when I watch the game, I would think he'd be shooting them.
Yeah.
It's like an electronic fence around the paint. And when you got those big, strong guys, Hibbert is 7'2". Test shots, block shots. He didn't block a shot in the previous game. You know why? He didn't have to.
Yeah, because Chris Bosh is 25 feet away. And if I'm Spoelstra, I'm telling Chris Bosh, like, we can get Hibbert out of there. Can you just attack this guy and try to get 2 fouls on him? What can we do to get him in foul trouble? Give me 3 ideas.
3 of his 6 shot attempts were 3-point shots.
Yeah.
So when those go down, those look good when you're a big. The reason why I'm not a fan of my 4 or 5 playing like a 2 or a 3 is it doesn't put pressure on the D. You don't get offensive rebounds. You don't get to the free throw line. You don't draw and kick. And now you mess up the spacing for the guys I need to shoot.
But this season they made the decision, we're not going to have a post-up player. LeBron's going to go down there sometimes. Wade's going to go down there. Bosh might go down there a little, but we're going to be this team of 5 guys that you never know who's going to shoot. We can shoot threes. Everybody on the floor can shoot a 20-footer, and you just won't be able to figure us out. That's not the right strategy for this series. They need more from Bosh. I don't think they're not going to beat Indiana if he doesn't show up for these last 3 games. I don't think LeBron as a one-man show can beat them.
And we got to mention Wade, too.
Yeah, we did. He's had, I believe, 9 straight playoff games without, or 9 straight games without scoring 20 points. Is he hurt?
Yeah, we think he's hurt.
Is that what's happening?
He's definitely dealing with injury.
He's got knee stuff. He's old, wear and tear.
He has
10
these
years.
pockets of brilliance, though. Like these flat. It's not. He doesn't look like a hurt guy most of the time, and then he has these flashes of brilliance. But then you look at the stat sheet, and he's got 16 points.
Don't you judge these guys by what would it be like to play with them? And if you're playing with Dwayne Wade, I would be like, man, I hope Dwayne goes to the basket. Dwayne, you're gonna go to the basket, right? Oh, Dwayne, you just took another 20-footer. We have nobody underneath again. Like that's not helping us. We're not going to get that rebound. All of us are out here.
But because Chris Bosh is 24 feet from the basket.
All of us are 25 feet away, and you just took a 20-footer with your hand in your face. Like, I would just want him to go. I don't think he can get to the basket, though, Jalen.
This is why. People underestimate George Hill, Lance Stephenson, and Paul George's defense. And yes, Wade is injured, but also he's slowing down some.
Yeah.
And those guys are able to play him one-on-one. They don't have to help on his drives. And when he gets to the basket, he's missing layups and short shots that he would normally dunk. That's, when you start to get older, is certain plays that you were able to go in and finish emphatic. Now you're trying to flip shot. Before you could just take off, now you're like, hold on, and then you miss it.
Couple things happen when you get older, the telltale signs. Free throw attempts per game.
Hard to stop peeing.
Hard to stop paying that too.
Okay.
Free throw attempts, like he was in the 10s.
Yep, more threes.
Now he's like 5. But he's not even shooting more threes. He's just not going to the line anymore. As you said, finishing around the rim. In the old days, he would bang off guys, make shots from weird angles, dunk on guys. He's not doing that as much anymore. And then when you just have the games where you don't show up, you're the game where you have like, oh, I was 3 for 12 for 8 points tonight. Like, that doesn't happen in your prime.
Yeah, and you're
in
well.
Your prime, you're always getting your 20, your 25, whatever. So, either he's hurt or he's just moving to a different phase of his career. During the streak, he was great. Remember that? Remember the streak?
I do. But I also remember when he returned in Chicago, that's the game they lost.
And that's when he wasn't the same.
And I also remember last year during the playoffs where he and Spo had their dust up against the Pacers.
Yeah.
They're a very good defensive team. Anytime a player is getting his knee drained during the playoffs, that's never good. Wade did that last year, and he did that this year.
Unless it's Kobe. Somehow it works out for Kobe.
Well, he
but
goes to Germany.
He's replacing his knee fluid with the fluid of his daughter's knees or something.
He got deer antler spray.
Something funky's going on. We were noticing, remember that, what was that one game when all the Spurs kept running off the court during the game? We were making deer antler spray jokes.
So now this is happening?
It was like,
now they're on the Jalen
not
Rose
peeing.
report. We're throwing out the conspiracy theories.
No, we were just like, where are these guys going?
It's like Mad Men. They've got a doctor in the back with a syringe.
We thought there was a jacuzzi with deer antler spray or something. Everyone did it at the home games, too.
Yeah, it's weird. Like,
we need a camera following these guys.
When you watch an NBA game, people stay out on the floor for the entire game.
Yeah.
They had like 4 or 5 guys go in and out of the locker room.
They don't need a Cliff Bar. Like, they're not going back for snacks.
Yeah.
Then we realized what it was. The Bachelorette was on.
They were giving each other updates as it was going on. They're like, this is kind of suit and armor.
Well,
it makes no sense.
that team has dealt with a lot of public divorces, so I'm not sure that.
Shots.
That was a good one.
Shots.
Wait a second. I have a question for Jacoby.
Uh-oh.
Even though I'm Tiago Splitter setting picks. Lance Stephenson, who you love probably
I love
more
Lance
passionate than
Stevens.
anybody in the
I
planet.
feel like me and Lance have a personal relationship.
When we went to the Pacer game last year, you felt like Lance should have been looking over and pointing to you. And,
Yeah, he did once. He did once, to be fair.
The
Lance
8th
is your guy.
grader.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Lance.
And now that he's on a national stage, he made a big 3 last night. He has gifts. Like, is this the greatest thing that's ever happened to you?
I'm going the other way. It's almost not as much fun. It's like your
Oh.
favorite little local band that only you love, and you like have a relationship with the lead singer, and like you give
Yeah.
pounds after they get off their little saloon that they play at, and
get
all of a
stoned
sudden,
with them behind the
and then
bar
they're
once.
doing
Yeah.
and now they're doing arenas, and you're like, this is my band.
Yeah.
Like what are you doing?
are all you people?
Yeah, you guys, you weren't with me shooting in the gym. Like I was riding for Lance when he was 14 years old at the Kingdom, and now everybody else is talking Lance Stephenson, a Born Ready, and this and that. It's like, no, he's the 8th grader.
I think Lance is the closest thing we have right now in the NBA to a pickup basketball player who's figured out how to carry that over to the NBA level. Like in Game 6 against the Knicks, he had some plays that were like not NBA plays.
Well, that's
They're like, I have a loose ball, I'm banging off you, doing little weird spin moves with my, one hand. It's like you don't see those plays in the NBA.
That's why I love Lance, because when he was literally 14 and 15 years old, he would play at the Kingdom in Harlem, and he would make those plays. It's very rough, and he would just bounce off people, and you jump up and you bounce off somebody, you don't get a call, and you finish, and he does bring that pickup playground stuff to the league. And he's also just a lunatic that goes as fast as he can, as hard as he can all the time. I do not want to cover that.
If he showed up at USC, we'd all be frightened.
No, I'm just going home.
Or I'd try to get on his team. Hey, it's who you running with.
He played 41 minutes, plus 14 plus minus. Guarded Wade and LeBron.
Guarded Wade
particular on the post.
fearlessly.
Yes, and scored 20 points.
I have a question, Jalen. I'm not an NBA analyst, okay? You guys are good NBA minds. At what point does Eric Spoelstra say, do you know what I'm going to do with the hot hand, Lance Stephenson? I'm going to put Ray Allen on him. For not just one possession, realize made a mistake, and then change it, for like 4 or 5 straight possessions. Why does that happen?
I think they actually, part of the game plan was they wanted Lance to shoot.
You
want to make a team take whatever their biggest offensive disadvantage is and keep going to it and think it's an advantage. But the reality is they're not giving it to Hibbert and West.
Correct. That's why in the previous series, Knicks fans were wondering, why is David West guarding Shumpert? Because they want Shumpert to take 15 or 20
like, please, Shumpert, keep shooting.
So you think that Spoelstra puts Ray Allen
It's like a
on
Jedi mind
Lance
trick.
And then Vogel says, oh, we've got a mismatch. Let's run some plays for Lance. And Lance is a lunatic and just happened to be good that day.
Yeah, it's like when I have a short guy on me, and you always try to post me up.
Yeah. You don't really want to do it.
I don't want to
You don't
post
want to do that.
Yeah, we have a short guy on you.
It's like,
No, we have better options.
No, I don't like that.
43 years old.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. But smart coaches
fair.
do that, though. They like kind of nudging teams toward the guys that they actually, the defensive teams want to shoot.
And the reason why that happens in pro sports especially is we all know who's on the marquee. So if you're taking a couple of shots, you have a couple of turnovers, that really messes with your confidence. And also the confidence of the star player who's looking at you like, come on, Jacoby, took a couple of shots.
I know that.
Like Tayshaun Prince in Game 4. He, in the first
He took
half.
8 shots in the first half.
Yes.
Atlanta Hawks was like, all right.
Okay. Yeah.
He started
You're open
playing
for a
fine.
reason.
That's ridiculous. He went 3 for 8, but it was a bad 3 for 8.
Some things you want to live with.
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah.
I was watching the game last night and I said, I want to talk to Bill about this. You think that there is some sort of like team of guys in suits that sit around like an Illuminati table that decide who refs what games in the NBA playoffs because they want a certain outcome.
No, I think I've written about this. I think they put certain refs in certain games sometimes.
Because they want to affect the outcome of the game.
I don't know if affect is the word I would use.
Well,
I would
influence?
I would think
change?
maybe if
Destroy?
if the referee choices would help a certain conclusion
Okay.
to emerge, they wouldn't be upset with
Can you
it.
provide any specific examples?
Yeah,
Say
for
from the last
instance,
week?
Game 3, Memphis, San Antonio in Memphis. I was not surprised to see Joey Crawford reffing the game.
Because you believe the NBA.
He has a really bad history with the Spurs, and a history where they see him and they're like, "Oh man!" Like he threw Duncan out. He got
For smiling on the bench.
fined once for feuding with the Spurs. So they see him, and they're like, "Oh my
And they
God."
did
all right.
Halloween pictures with him and
Yeah.
stuff like that, marketing.
Like that's like
Yeah.
the worst ref for them to see, and they saw him in the game where it's like if they win that game, the series is over. Game 4 yesterday, Indiana down 2-1. If Indiana loses that game, the series is over in 5. We see Joey again. And in this case, I think the mindset's a little different. I just think he's the one ref who's not going to be seduced by LeBron and Wade. He's going to call it evenly. He's not going to care. If anything, he's going to call things against those guys. He's a go against the grain ref.
Correct. Calling 4 fouls on LeBron James in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Hence your point.
Most refs aren't going to be like, I can't foul out LeBron James.
How do you think these assignments happen? Like, you've talked about the result and sort of how it happened and what happens, but how does he end up reffing that game?
All right, this is just a theory. I don't know for sure. But I think they look at this and they say...
Who's the they?
The NBA.
Okay.
Or whoever does the
what
assignments.
human beings do this?
I think they look at this and they just think to themselves, all right, how should we use our refs? Well, although, in Joey's case, no. They knew the Spurs would probably win the first 2. And if they had won one of the first 2, you put Joey in Game 3. Now Memphis has a chance to go up 2-1. You might get a longer series. But Game 4, Joey reffing Game 4 in Indiana, I think was preordained.
I don't believe that.
Well, they make the assignments.
I don't know. I just don't think that there's some secret society of Illuminati NBA people like David Stern and Adam Silver sitting around a table saying, okay, they're probably going to win the first 2 in San Antonio. So then what we should do is put Joey Crawford in Game 3.
See, I'm
because
shaped.
Of blah blah blah.
I'm shaped from '99 to '03, which featured most of the officiating disasters that have happened, including one that affected our dear friend Jalen here. The 4-point play.
Yep, and I was at the game.
The single worst call of that whole era.
And I know you're talking about a lot about the Kings and the Lakers series.
Kings Lakers. Yeah. The most underrated one nobody ever mentions is Bucks Sixers 2001. They wanted Iverson in the finals. It is the most one-sided officiating thing of that whole era. '99 to '03 was some really shady stuff. And once the internet started, it became really hard to do that stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, Tim Donaghy too, yeah.
He was a part of that era.
But the Bucks, 2 guys got fined on the Bucks for complaining. George Karl and Ray Allen got fined like $25,000 each for both saying this is like wrestling. This is we have no chance. Yeah. Iverson got to the line I think over 100 times in that series. Ask anyone from Milwaukee. I mean, I know fans are irrational, but anyone in Milwaukee thinks that's like the WrestleMania series for them. But I don't think it's as big a factor as it was. I think the Donaghy thing made it.
But also what makes fans question is there is a certain thing as your status dictates the call you get. Because their rookie calls, their first quarter calls, their fourth quarter calls, their veteran calls, their superstar calls. Is it a travel? Is it over the back? Is it a 3 seconds? Is it a block, charge, flop? So in the NBA, there's so many judgment calls that are visible. Like when you're watching a football game, there's holding going on within the interior line all of the time. But it's not pronounced. In basketball, fouls can be pronounced.
Well, and then the other thing is, there's a lot of calls that could be called at any point in the game. Like Kevin Garnett could be called on a semi-moving screen on every screen he sets, and so can Tim Duncan.
Anyone who ever got post position fouled somebody to get it.
One of the Knicks games, I think it was Game 2, KG got second whistle was just a screen that he sets 1,000 times a season, and they just decided this time to call it. All of a sudden, he has 2 fouls now with 4 minutes into the game. It killed the Celtics.
So you want consistency right now. There's one play when Lance Jalen Rose LeBron a little bit, maybe unintentionally, and then LeBron landed on his foot, and they called that a foul. Fast forward to the 6th foul when LeBron sort of stepped on Lance's foot on the screen. Is there any justification by saying, look, we called it this way in the first half, and so we just called it the same way in the fourth quarter?
I do think they look at the sheet and stuff.
Of course they do.
If it's if the free throws are 20-6 going into the fourth quarter, they'll try to balance it out a little bit. But Jalen, you must have had games where you guys saw the refs and thought, oh, we're screwed.
Yeah, you feel like that.
See?
It has a factor mentally, like he just said. And for the Spurs, for example, if you have a history with a ref and all of a sudden you get a bad call, there are going to be bad calls during the game.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So when you get it, as opposed to being it's not personal, when it's somebody you have a history with, here we go again.
Yeah, here's this guy.
And all of a sudden, you're not attacking as much. You're not going as strong. As soon as you get that contact, you're not playing through it. You see more guys trailing the play, throwing their arm at the ref and stuff
Well, we
like
saw
that.
Game 4, Memphis San Antonio, and San Antonio couldn't buy a call that whole game. It was amazing they won, but it got to the point where they called Manu on a push-off when he was doing a behind-the-back dribble, and Jalen and I were like, how did he push off? He was doing a behind-the-back dribble. What hand did he
Oh,
put?
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Insane.
And there was a couple other ones, and Parker got fouled.
I thought
Two
the
plays.
refs were worse in that series.
Yeah, they
than
were
we
bad.
last
Talked about
night.
it.
Yeah.
They were bad.
2 plays, Pondexter got straight in front of a player running down the floor and fell, and they called foul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really bad. That was one of, and nobody cared because the Spurs won.
Yeah,
but
because
that
it was a blowout anyway.
But yeah, but you guys must have, especially being a small market team, and especially in that Knicks series.
Hicks versus Knicks. Hence, it's the large market that the masses would want to see in a big game. Like right now, there's a lot of talk, and we've talked about this. Does the quote-unquote NBA want to see the Miami Heat play against the Los Angeles Lakers? Or do they want to see the San Antonio Spurs play against the Indiana Pacers?
I wanted to do a segment on this show, and I got outvoted. Here's the thing. I think from what I understand about ratings, we sell all the ads ahead of time. So the ads are sold. No, I think everything gets sold.
Yeah, but you get more if you go 7 games than if you go 5.
That is what matters.
Yeah.
I don't think the teams matter. Like whether it's Indiana versus San Antonio or Miami versus San Antonio, we sold the ads anyway.
The ratings will be different.
The ratings
will affect how much money you make because you'll also
not for
project
not for
year's,
this year though.
But you'll
It
project
affects next
year's
year.
price
That's what it
based on
affects.
last year's numbers.
It affects next year.
Yeah, so which is still money in your pocket.
But what really affects it is 7 games. Like when Celtics Lakers
Yes.
win 7 games,
Yes.
after the 5th game, it's like all free money.
You are printing
for the
money.
networks.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, like, I don't know if it matters. I don't know if the ratings matter as much as we think it does. What matters is whether the series is good. Like San Antonio Cleveland in 07, which was the most disastrous finals of the last 30 years. It wasn't bad because of the markets. It was bad because that series was over in a quarter. You watch the first quarter of Game 7, you're like, oh, all right, well, this series sucks. And the ratings went down like this. And I think that's what, if Indiana-San Antonio was a good series, the ratings are going to be there like they would be with Miami. But if it went 7, it's still a good thing, I think.
Basketball fans will come out to watch good basketball.
Yeah.
You know, like, NBA fans are going to
I don't
watch.
think it's a bad thing to market Paul George, but I think Miami
Who
is
also
just
has
a national team. Miami's like the Packers, you know. People are coming out for Miami. If LeBron's in the finals, my mom would watch that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, the casual fan.
Right.
When you have the teams with cachet, a history, you don't really have to sell the game as much because they're just going to follow the names, whether it's Celtics, whether it's Lakers, whether it's Yankees.
We were talking about this is a don't get fired moment, but
Oh, no.
they fly us to the Western Finals, and we come on after the game. We're there. They build us this nice set, and we had a 4-minute Sports Center segment because it was Memphis, San Antonio, and then that was it. And they're like, all right, guys, thanks. If it had been Lakers, San Antonio, we would have been on for 40 minutes.
Correct.
Because people care about the Lakers.
We would have said
Casual
we got to
people
see
care.
Kobe at the press conference.
And we got to get Pau Gasol's play. We would have been there. We would have been on air for 40 straight minutes. And this is the part, again, don't get fired, but this is the part when people criticize ESPN for catering to the big markets. It's totally justified in this case because if the Lakers were in the Western Finals, we would have promoted those games more and we would have spent more time talking about them before and after the game and playing it up and Kobe and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And because it was Memphis, San
Dwight
Antonio,
Howard,
they didn't
is he
give a
staying?
crap.
Is he going or whatever?
And it's like,
yeah.
and we're like, well, we should have stayed in LA at this point because we're here for 4-minute Sports Center segment. Could have done that from LA. So I don't know. I was annoyed by that a little bit. I don't like that mentality of, think of how much we talked about the Lakers this year on the show.
Whether they were in 8th, whether they were in 10th.
We spent
Yeah.
so much time talking about them. They were an 8th place team that got
Not at
swept
the
in the
time.
first round.
Yeah.
We talked about them more than every other team combined. And against our wishes a lot of the time. I didn't want to keep talking about Kobe. I don't understand why we do TV that way.
It's because
So anyway,
the
I look
big,
forward to seeing this transcript printed out on a sports blog, but I don't care. I'd like to see us do better work.
I look forward to replacing you on NBA Countdown.
Yeah, whatever.
Jacoby filling in for Bill Simmons next year.
It's annoying though. I think there's lots of good storylines. I don't think Kobe, the 9,700th Kobe conversation should matter. But what do I know?
The casual fan is more interested in hearing about Kobe Bryant than Quincy Pondexter.
How about this? After game 3, we were supposed to be on for like 10 minutes. The Notre Dame quarterback, whatever the hell happened with him happened, and they had to run with that story in SportsCenter. I don't care about the Notre Dame quarterback, but
They don't program the network for you.
I know. I guess that was a story. Was that a story?
That's a story. College football's big. Don't sleep on football being bigger than all of this.
But isn't the story just that the guy isn't on the team anymore? What else was there to say? It's like, let's go to South Bend.
Shocking news.
So, yeah, the guy's not on the team.
I'm standing by his class, and he's not in here.
Yeah, so I'm on campus, and I just saw a guy in a suitcase.
Yeah. We have shocking news. The Notre Dame quarterback apparently isn't that good of a student.
Yeah.
weird.
There's been some corruption in the NCAA. I know it's hard to believe.
Regarding athletics.
Actually, the Rutgers story I do enjoy.
Yeah.
That one got good. I like the volleyball. The 96 volleyball team, they're all coming out like, yeah, she called us whores and alcoholics. And now she's the athletic director. It's like, what?
Wait, what?
And there's always some tough love with coaching. So I always make sure I pay attention to who's saying it and who they're saying it about, because you can ask any player that's ever been pushed by a coach. That coach is going to say some things.
Did that guy
under
get
your
personal
skin.
with you? Yeah.
But are they name calling you and demeaning or assassinating your character? That's something way different. Throwing basketballs at your team, that's ridiculous. So did their plight end up the way they wanted it to? Like, say, for example, you go to a school in the Big East, Big Ten, or whatever. The 5 or 7 players that are playing, for the most part, they like their coach, or they like their university. The other guys that aren't playing, they could do without. I wish I can get out of here. Coach don't like me, whatever. So I applaud the young ladies coming out about the new Rutgers AD, because it didn't seem like they would have said anything unless she got a better job. Like, now she's on a bigger stage, and they're like, hold on, we know her. We got to make sure people know about her. I like they handled it that way, as opposed to constantly coming out, staggered. They came out united. They came out strong. All 15 people signed the letter. So to me, it was valid.
It seemed legit, like they really did care about letting the world know.
Yeah.
This leads to the natural question, though, for Jalen. Did you ever have a coach that you felt like crossed the line with the way he talked to you as a human being?
No.
And if you did, who was that coach?
No, I didn't.
I would have guessed Dan Issel.
Oh, no, Larry Brown. Anytime you can throw Larry Brown under the bus,
he
he's
hates
going
Larry
under the
Brown.
bus. Yeah.
No, but he never talked.
No, Larry's my guy.
That's my guy.
He was intelligent with it. He'll just be like, screw you, go sit down, not talk to you, and big up everybody else. So not to diss none of my teammates, but you got to understand, you're a professional player. You're practicing against guys every day. So my competition, besides Reggie Miller, when I first got to Indiana, was Haywood Workman, Travis Best, Fred Hoiberg, Dwayne Farrell, and Jerome Allen.
Wow, that was a murderer's row.
Yeah, wow.
Those are the players that I went from starting in Denver for a playoff team the prior year that all played minutes over me the next year. So what Larry Brown would do is mentally manipulate me to try to make me do something to screw myself to make me look bad in front of everybody.
Like what?
Give you a DNP, take you out after you made a shot, bring you in the office and say, Chris Webber and Javon Howard, they're up here. Ray Jackson and Jimmy King, they're down here. You're right in the middle. I'm going to decide what happens with you next. I'm looking at him like, no, you're not. Even if you don't play me, I'm going to work out every day before the games. I'm going to go hard. Like, you're not going to destroy my spirit. That's basically what he was trying to do. There was one time where I was on the side. He was talking through a drill. And sometimes he's one of those coaches where you go hard for a little while, and then he'll stop and talk for 30 minutes. And then you go hard again. A lot of stop and go. You don't coach 10 teams by everybody loving you, by the way. So you burn out with everybody. And you do it on purpose in a lot of cases.
He failed 3 of Jalen's tests for coaches. 1, moved around a lot, which
Jalen
is a bad
doesn't like
sign.
guys moving around.
Next
Like
Town
for players
Brown.
or coach. 2,
Next down Brown.
what?
I like that.
You like next time, Brown? I forgot what the other two things were. You know the other two things.
So he tears down a situation, and then he says, "Look what I did. I rebuilt
Yeah.
the team.
Yeah.
I'm going to run the Knicks in the ground.
Yeah.
And then next year we're gonna win 20 games this year, and we're gonna win 35 next year.
Success.
And I'm a genius."
It's like marrying somebody and then immediately cheating on them a million times and being mean to them and then getting back together and like, look, we're
Hey,
back.
I'm better now.
Better
this
now.
is great.
No, I
Yeah.
forgot the thing you hated the most was what he did to the Pistons in 05.
In 05,
This is the all-time no-no
the
for
Pistons were
Jalen.
playing against the Cavs. No, I'm sorry. The Pistons were playing against the Sixers.
Yep.
And
It was somebody in the playoffs,
the
yeah.
Cavs coaching job had just opened up. While practice was going on, Larry Brown was off to the corner talking to the Cavs brash about their job.
Oh, yeah.
And all the Pistons found out, and that was it for that team.
And everybody knew it. Everybody found out. The media knew it. That's just disrespectful. That's
Bill
just rude.
Parcells did the same thing in the Super Bowl. When
real?
in '96 with the Patriots, it was similar. It wasn't as bad as what Larry Brown did, but he basically knew he was going to leave, and instead of concealing it before that Super Bowl, it came out, and it came out because he leaked it, and he leaked it as a contract ploy, and it hurt the team. I think we would have won the Super Bowl that year, come damn close. We lost by 10, but. It was a dick move. I've never liked him as much.
It's hard to
after
take the Super Bowl field and not
Yeah.
feel like your head coach
Oh,
is
yeah.
fully invested
That
in the
guy's-
franchise. Yeah.
And when you've had some success, and here's the difference between being a player or a coach. Like, if a coach is out of school 25 years, I would think he should win one championship. A player only gets 1 to 4 years to actually win one. So his window is smaller. And what I mean by that with Larry Brown is, again, you can't take nothing away from what he did with Danny and the Miracles at Kansas. That was outstanding. The Pistons winning
And
the
then he ditched
championship
him.
with that group was outstanding. But he'll have success, and then he'll just ditch a team.
He did it with the Nets too. He had the Nets in the playoffs in the early '80s, and just
Can't wait till ESPN
Whammed him in the
hires
back.
him and,
And
Jim
so-
work together
but
on
he's
something. It's gonna
ran
be
out of. He's
great.
at SMU now. He ran out of options.
And that's
Everyone's
my
on
point.
him now.
So what happens, Jacoby, is when you've been so many different places, you have moles planted everywhere. You have certain moles in the media.
that was the one I was going to mention. The guys who use the media for their advantage.
Exactly.
That was the other one
exactly.
that Jalen hates.
You got certain moles that,
Yeah.
when the job comes up, like the Nets' job is going to come up. The Nets ain't hiring Larry Brown to be their coach.
Right.
But I guarantee you, because their GM, Billy King, was an assistant under Larry. Larry brought Billy to Philly.
Right.
We're going to talk to, and I'm exaggerating. We got Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach interviewing, and we got Larry Brown.
Then Larry's name is in there. Then
Yeah,
Larry
so
gets
then
to
other
deny
people
it.
think, and
Then he gets to deny it. He goes in the living
You know-
rooms at SMU, says, "Yeah, I can leave if I really want to."
Yeah, but I'm so into this program. I really believe in the SMU experience.
Yes.
That your son should come play ball there.
Coaches who care about themselves more than their players always get into trouble. You know who handled this the best out of anyone? Ken Reeves in season 2 of The White Shadow.
Oh yeah, of
For
course.
the city championship.
Of course.
He was getting lured by a bigger school.
Yeah.
The guys found out about it. They
More
asked
money,
him if it
too.
was true. He told them,
He said yes.
I'm not discussing my future with you guys. They got mad. It was going to affect the team.
Coolidge.
Right before the game, he said to him, and he was like, yeah, we'll give you something to remember by. Coach Reeves says, I'm not going anywhere. They went out. They win the city
Fired up.
championship for Jackson. Yeah.
Good. I want to get back. We'll get off of White Shadow podcast. We'll get back to the NBA.
yes,
briefly.
anybody watching the video, I'm blowing my nose. I'm into the cold.
Wait a second. We only have like 10 minutes
Yes.
left. We're going to go to the power rankings.
Oh yeah, this is important. Bill, set this up.
So Jalen and I were in Memphis, and Memphis is definitely an urban city, and it piqued my interest. We'd had lunch like every day. We're running out of stuff to talk about, and I was like, "Hey, Jalen, let's say I'm an African American NBA basketball player.
Okay.
What would be my favorite city to visit?"
Yay! I love this
So then
topic.
Jalen said, "This is great." And he got all happy. And he did a top 5, and then the top 5 changed, and then he tweaked it and whatever. And then we spent a couple days in Memphis, and Memphis went. So we jokingly called it the Black Guy City Power Rankings. We haven't come up with a better title yet.
But everybody that clips this and
BGCP?
uses this for their websites and blogs, make sure you title it right. Black Guy City Power Rankings. That's what this segment is called.
Okay.
And I'm black, if you haven't noticed. So it's okay.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna go in
We're all
reverse order.
comfortable. We're all comfortable.
From 5 to 1.
Top 5.
5 to 1. It's kind of tough to go 5 to 1.
Oh, you just so it's like Mount Rushmore. You just
Yeah.
pick them out.
Oh!
Okay. Mount Rushmore.
Oh, I
I'll
like
give you
this.
5. Yes.
Okay. So it's a 5-city Mount Rushmore.
A 5-city Mount Rushmore.
In no particular order?
No particular order. Washington, D.C.
And why is that?
Chocolate City.
You walked into that one.
I mean,
I'm setting them up.
Yeah.
that speaks for itself,
Okay.
right?
Not a lot of nightlife.
It's the most powerful city in the United States of America.
Okay.
It's where the president resides. And you know what? He happens to be black as well.
African American. This is definitely the first one that's going to get bumped off. I promise you. I promise you, this is number 5. I know you said no particular order. This is number 5.
Well, how much does just the fact that the nickname for Washington, D.C. is
Chocolate City
That
come
speaks
into
for
it.
itself.
Yeah.
So, but how much does that have to do with its top 5 placement? Like 70%?
Yes.
What attributes of a city are we looking for here?
Oh, we should have set that up beforehand. Go through some of
What are we looking for?
Go through
Okay.
some of the essential checkpoints.
Okay, here are some of the essential checkpoints to be one of the favorite black guy cities.
If you're not watching this and you're listening, Jalen's complete face just changed once we brought up this topic.
I love it. If you have no state taxes, that helps.
Okay.
Good strip clubs,
Gentlemen's clubs.
that helps.
Okay.
Be able to take a nap before you go out and kick it,
Okay.
that helps.
Nightlife.
Food. You left out food.
Great soul food, great restaurants.
I could tell you had this no state tax and the gentlemen's clubs down, and you're just kind of freestyling.
No,
now.
no, no. You saw this.
Right?
Well, another big part is lots of black people. Is
Sure.
a good thing. You
Lots of black people.
Yeah.
Good soul, good juke joints.
Okay, so we've
You
got
know, good urban situations.
Washington D.C.
Let me say some positives. Thriving, hardworking individuals.
Yeah.
Blue collar towns.
The blue collar thing's a big thing.
Yeah, that's a huge. I come from a blue collar town in Detroit. So good sports towns.
There's a certain interaction that is essential to the blue collar town that you see.
Yeah. Certain interaction. A
Like
certain
we were in
respect.
Memphis, and you said it reminded you of Detroit.
Yes.
There were a lot of similarities. To those two
Memphis
cities.
now reminds me of how Detroit was when I grew up, like in the 80s. Go to a restaurant, playing on the jukebox, people waiting outside, no air condition, getting soul food, getting greens, eating chitlins. Like, really gave me some throwback memories and helped this topic.
Super respectful.
Super
nice,
respectful of one
happy.
another.
Yeah. Anyway.
You know, walking past and, hey, what's going on? People giving you pound, like it was all love.
Get me to Mount
A lot of love. Very lovely.
Get
So,
me to Mount
so we had to set the table for the urban spots. So number 5, Washington, D.C., Chocolate City, period, point blank. Number 4, I'm going Houston.
Okay. Houston.
This really helps Dwight Howard's case right now.
No state
Daryl Morey
taxes,
definitely told you to do this.
excellent strip clubs, very diverse and major metropolitan.
Cheap. You can get a giant
Yeah.
house.
That's the other thing.
Really spread out. It's a car culture there.
Rap
a
history.
nine-room house,
And
nine-bedroom house.
as a music fan, great history of music and
Chopped and
rap.
Screwed.
You know what I mean? You have the Chopped and Screwed.
Bun B.
You have Rap-A-Lot Records, Ghetto Boys.
Paul Wall.
So Houston, they're number 4.
So that's why when Houston's always in the free agent mix, and people are like, oh, Houston, that's not it. It's like, oh, no, actually, that's
Also, don't
they're a
sleep
player.
on no state tax.
No state tax.
That's $1 million right there. If
That
not
means
more.
a lot.
$1 million.
Great interaction with one another. Number 3, New Orleans.
Okay.
Oh.
You have Bourbon Street. They've hosted multiple Super Bowls for a reason.
Yes.
It's a very festive place,
Festive is a good word for it.
right?
Very
Also, I'm going to go to music because they're moguls from music from their town. You have Master P
Percy.
and what he was doing with his whole movement, his body
YMCMB.
moving.
YMCMB.
YMCMB, Cash Money, their movement. Great strip clubs.
Gentlemen's clubs.
New Orleans is number 3.
You left out unbelievable food, obviously.
Unbelievable
left
food,
out the music
gumbo,
Music scene.
Music is big.
Right, the jazz, the blues. It's just real soulful.
Okay.
And also great weather. We talked about a lot of these places. Besides Washington, D.C., none of these places have true winters. Got to be warm.
Oh, warm weather, essential.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Good point.
Right.
Minneapolis is not going to be
It
on this
isn't
list.
like Winnipeg is not going to be on the Black Guy City, right?
Calgary, not high.
So you can flip-flop either 1 and 2 depending on what day it is.
Okay.
Atlanta.
Enough said.
Right?
Yeah,
I
enough
don't have to
said.
say anything
Yeah.
about the A from,
You go into it a little bit.
okay. One of the things that's been a common denominator within the last 2 is good.
Gentlemen's clubs.
Okay. Atlanta also is very diverse, actually, as it relates to their workforce. Like a lot of people
Interesting.
from Michigan, back in the day, people used to migrate to Michigan to work at the plant. Now a lot of Michiganders migrate to Atlanta.
A lot of New Yorkers go down there too.
Correct.
When the Knicks play the Hawks, it's like a Knicks crowd.
It's like a home game.
Yeah.
And also all of these teams and cities that we're mentioning for basketball play downtown. That's one of the things I wish my Pistons could still do.
Yeah.
When they played at Cobo Hall back in the day, you saw the long coats, zoot suits, fur hats. It was inclusive. Leon the Barber, it was like that atmosphere that whether your team is good or bad, you have the pulse or the heartbeat of the city. Atlanta has that. They've called themselves the Motown of the South.
So like a couple years ago when ESPN and TNT were battling to get Shaq for TV, and it basically came down to, do I want to be in Atlanta or Los Angeles? You think that the Atlanta thing was actually a positive?
It's a positive, and also he spends so much time out here. It would probably be best for him to have a change of venue.
Right.
But that's why they're able to set up shop in Atlanta. And you see so many players and people down there. It's one of those places where in the summertime, if you're not from there and you play there, you'll still kick it there. You'll still spend time there. A lot of places that I'm not mentioning, when a player may be from somewhere else, when the season ends, they're out. First thing smoking. Atlanta's one of those towns people stay in all year
Buy
round.
houses.
Yeah, and you get good bang for your buck.
And they have cap space this summer. They got Joe Johnson. I guess they traded for him.
I thought you meant TNT. I was like, what are you
No.
talking about?
So Atlanta with a ton of cap space, you think could be like a legit player?
I do. And good restaurants, as we talked about. I love going to Waffle House. I love going to Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles in Atlanta. You know, you have downtown, then you have your Buckhead, then you have your Alpharetta, you have Midtown. It's very
Barbecue,
diverse.
right? They have barbecue scene in Georgia.
Yeah, they have all
It
types.
really is the Motown of the South at this
Yeah.
point. I'd say that the
So how is that not number one?
based
What
in
was number one then?
Bristol,
You get
Connecticut.
crunk in Atlanta.
Bristol, Connecticut.
Bristol, Connecticut's number one, right?
And all of these places have had their own sound. So Atlanta has had crunk, right? We talked about Houston area having chopped and screwed. Washington, they have go-go,
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
right?
Phil, you
And
like
we
the
talked
go-go,
about
right?
the sound in New Orleans, that blues feeling, that jazz. So number one,
I know all of these things. One of my best friends is black. Joe House.
number one, Memphis.
You guys love Memphis. What is going on?
Memphis is
Because-
number one?
Because I slept on Memphis. And I went there and spent multiple
this is not
days.
the slept on Black Guy City power rankings.
This is the equivalent of Mike Tyson buying the girl a car after the one.
And here's why.
What happened in Memphis with you?
Oh my God.
When I went to Memphis, I discovered Beale Street. I also discovered the great history that lives within the Lorraine Hotel.
Lorraine Hotel is that was a
Okay.
big.
That's where Martin Luther King was tragically murdered. I went to the MLK Museum. It was a very historic thing. It was very touching emotionally, politically, socially. We had great restaurants, great barbecue.
Unbelievable food.
Anytime you get off the airplane, Jacoby, and you're walking through the airport and you can eat buffet barbecue, That's a signature for a town.
Okay, let me just
8-ball and MJG growing up.
Let me just throw
3-6 Mafia.
Do you know who just called? Sorry, Rick Ross just called. He wants to talk to you about Miami. Oh, do you know who else just called? Magic Johnson,
it's
the
more
Hall of Fame
international.
mogul, just called, and he wants to talk to you about Los Angeles.
Listen, I'm gonna
Miami's
defend.
more international.
Oh wait, I'm sorry.
melting pot.
I'm sorry. New York City, the greatest city in the world.
Like, I love New York. I love Chicago. I love Detroit. I love Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, Detroit just called. They're never letting you back.
But I don't see those as places that where it just embodies that particular demo like these places do.
His point is, Memphis,
Motown had that. When I was growing up, if this was the 80s, I'd say Detroit. We had the auto industry. We had so many
Good
great
point.
things
Yeah.
going. We don't have those things anymore.
Well,
We have
to
them. we're trying
Jalen's
to bring
point
them back.
though, why Memphis should be number one. Name me another American city which would decide Zach Randolph is our mayor.
And Tony Allen's in the
solid.
cabinet.
Really, and Tony Allen's the chief of staff.
Right?
yeah. Well, the good part is that you're about to be fired from ESPN for this whole segment.
No.
And you will get a job at the
No.
Memphis Tourism Board.
But the other good thing is, if I did or didn't mention your city, make sure when you see me, tweet me, and I'm in your town, you show me a great time. So when we do this again,
yes, yeah. This is. You can be
The only thing
influenced.
about Memphis is we weren't there long enough for you to experience the full nightclub scene.
that's what's very impressive. Because,
It won you over without the nightclub scene.
yes,
How much of this ranking was Gus's fried chicken? Like 22%?
yes, at least 12%.
I can already tell this is going to be very controversial. There's going to be a lot of viewer and listener feedback on this one. And I like how you ended it by saying, look, if I didn't mention your city, I'm not disrespecting your city. I'm just saying, show me a good time when I get there.
Correct.
I like how you played that.
If
That
you
was
get jammed
daft.
up, don't mention my
That was
name.
daft. That was really daft. You're like, I'm not disrespecting any other city. I'm just saying, just show me what you got.
The great thing about being a player in the NBA that plays for 6 teams, besides playing for 6 teams and doing it for a living and getting paid, is learning different cultures. I loved living in Toronto. It was an awesome experience for me.
Because it was the very diverse
I love living in
female base.
Chicago.
Yeah.
It was a terrific time. I love living in New York.
It's the greatest thing
It
in the
was
world.
awesome.
He stayed at the Trump.
I learned a lot about Indiana when I was there. I was there almost 6 years. I loved living in Denver my first 2 years in the league. I loved all of the cities I lived in.
I don't 100% believe the Denver thing.
I don't
I
think that's-
did.
What's wrong with
Yeah.
it?
I was a rookie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can I just say something?
I love living in Phoenix.
This Memphis number one ranking is the equivalent of giving Arnell Simpson a car.
It really is.
You know who you
It
are.
really is. You must have had a really good time. Because you know who's up next on the itinerary?
Who doesn't know that story?
We have to wrap it soon.
Jalen knows somebody who may have given
Oh, I
Arnell
know.
Simpson a car. Okay.
I do
An
know-
explorer.
I do
An
know
explorer.
That. I do know that story. That's why I'm trying to change the
Splinternet.
subject.
Splinternet.
That's
Better Google
why
that.
I'm
Splinternet.
trying to change the subject. The next city that's on your itinerary is San Antonio. We do have to wrap up this podcast. So for everyone in San Antonio, holler at Jalen and get on that list.
Yes, very important to get
We
on the
like
list.
San Antonio.
We like San Antonio.
San Antonio was good.
The lunch spot you took us to that was walking distance from the hotel,
We had a good meal at Boudreaux's, too.
it was excellent.
We had some good meals.
We had fun in San Antonio.
I've never been to Boudreaux's, but
My
I'm
blood
almost
is-
positive you're saying the name wrong.
It's Boudreaux's.
Okay.
My blood is turning into barbecue sauce.
Kobe's about to take some and drain it in and put it into his system.
God.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade's about to take some of your barbecue
we-
sauce blood.
Finals could be Miami, because we're traveling for the finals. Could
Mm-hmm.
be Miami, and then San Antonio. Big market, small market. Crazy city, mellow, small market city. Be interesting, contrast.
So let me throw this out
Jalen's
there.
probably a little more excited for Miami, I'm guessing.
I am. And for
Miami was a runner-up in the rankings.
Miami, all of those times. But also for LeBron James. He played against the Spurs in their big four, I'm including Popovich, as a member of the Cavs.
Oh, revenge.
And that now probably helped spawn him to think, I need help. Hence him going to Miami. Now he has his own big three. It'd be an interesting thing to see those two face off again. Not overlooking the Indiana Pacers. Anybody that knows me know if I was picking who'd win, I would love to actually go.
You realize
Indiana
Jalen
Pacers
can't
play in the
lose because
finals.
it's
I can't
Miami or
lose.
Indiana.
Miami, yeah.
Either way, it's
I
the
can't
biggest
lose.
win
So
of all
real
time
quick,
for him.
who do you have winning the Eastern Conference Finals?
My heart wants Indiana to win.
But
My head says the Heat are gonna win.
Miami's gonna win.
Miami's going to win, right? Remember last year when it was 2-1, everyone's like, oh, Dwayne Wade, or is
Miami's
LeBron
gonna
going to stay? Or the Heat falling apart, the experiment didn't work.
It's
over.
a great series for Indiana, though. If they can
is.
go
Yeah.
to 7, they get all their little reps. They get Granger back next
Yeah,
year.
no
They
one's
make one
talking
more
about
free
Granger.
agent signing. They
No
get
one's talking
David
about
West
Granger.
back.
How about this?
They have a chance a year from now to win.
I'll
the
talk
title.
about him. What about our guy, Larry Joseph Bird, who discovered Vogel,
The legend.
drafted Granger, drafted Hibbert,
Lance Stephenson.
drafted Stephenson, hung with him through his ups and downs,
Signed David West.
and Paul George,
George Hill trade.
George Hill trade. Those are my teammates because Larry, I feel like he discovered me.
And wasn't responsible for Gerald Green because he was already gone, which was their dumb
Never
signing.
gave Jalen Rose a DNP.
Never.
No, he never.
We gotta get with
the
Larry this
legend.
summer.
The legend was too smart. Well, if Indiana makes the finals somehow, we'll fly down there and do a 3-man.
My life is such a blessing. I grew up idolizing Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson. And I have a relationship with them now. Isaiah Thomas influences my school. The biggest individual donor we have at our school is Isaiah Thomas. I work with Magic Johnson. Larry Bird was my coach in the league. Can nobody tell me anything?
And you just gave Memphis a Ford Explorer.
Check back next week for the Jalen Rose report. And don't forget, this is part 2 of 2. Part 1 is on the BS report. See you guys.
Good times.
Good times.
I've got a joke. I'll tell you after you watch one more video. Click subscribe, you champion.